You may be seated. Good morning, everyone. I'm Susan Yaki, the director of the Follette School of Public Affairs. It's my pleasure to welcome all of you, graduates, family, friends of graduates, State Representative Francesca Hung, faculty, staff, and our special guests to the 2023 Robert M. LaFollette School of Public Affairs graduation ceremony. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the audience. This day is the culmination of many years of effort. Indeed, it is a celebration of these achievements and your dedication to public service, as well as an acknowledgement of the people who helped get you here. Most importantly, your family and friends. I am so pleased to have a chance to celebrate with you all today. Before we hear from our fantastic lineup of speakers, I wanted to take a moment to honor the memory of LaFollette School Professor Jeffrey Wallace, who passed away this year. Jeffrey was a committed researcher and teacher, and he poured tremendous time and energy into our LaFollette graduate students and into our school. I know that his work and his mentorship touched many of you, and we're grateful for the legacy that he's imparted on the LaFollette School. And I just hope that you would join me for just a moment to think of Jeffrey. I know that he is with us today. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce Liliana Teniente, who was voted by her graduating class to serve as its speaker. Staying true to herself, her family, and paving a way of her very own, Liliana graduates today with a master's in public affairs. As a proud multicultural Wisconsinite, her roots are a constant reminder to make the most of the opportunities that were not afforded to earlier generations. During her time at the LaFollette School, Liliana worked as an academic instructor at the Information Technology Academy, where she taught college prep courses for local first-generation underrepresented high school students. As secretary of the LaFollette School Student Association, Liliana played an integral role in student-led DEI initiatives to facilitate a more inclusive learning environment. Liliana aspires to make a difference in people's lives by elevating equity and opportunity in education, policy, and in government. She is grateful to the LaFollette School faculty and staff for sharing their knowledge and mentorship, as well as to the class of 2023 for their friendship and for their support. Liliana would also like to thank her parents, Rita and Ivan, and her fiancé, Jose, for helping her reach for the stars. Liliana, please come forward and take it away.
Wow. Hello, everybody, and thank you all for joining today's LaFollette School graduation ceremony to celebrate the class of 2023. On behalf of all the graduates, I want to say thank you to all of the parents, all of the families, and all of the friends here in the audience for joining us in celebration of this great accomplishment. I know that none of us did this alone, so I want to say thank you so much for taking this journey with us. And first, let me just say that I feel so incredibly honored to stand before you all as the student voted by my peers to address our amazing graduating class. And to note just a select few recent La Follette student accomplishments, we have folks in this room who recently conducted a cost-benefit analysis to highlight the advantages of child savings accounts here in Wisconsin. Adam, Tyler, Steph, Ian, and Sam, I'm looking at you. We also have someone who will be interning at the Office of the Administrator within the Federal Transit Administration in Washington, D.C. Gabriel, I'm looking at you. And our very own Ariana Hammersmith is an incoming Presidential Management Fellow who was recently accepted to the federal government's highly selective Leadership Development Program. And these are just a few examples that highlight the incredible achievements of our graduating class. And so can we please get a round of applause for all of today's amazing graduates? I want to take a moment right now to let this all soak in, because as I reflect on my time at La Follette, I realize that I've experienced so much growth. I joined La Follette's graduate program as a returning UW-Madison student who had just finished undergrad in 2021. At that time, I felt very proud of the professional work experience that I'd been able to gain in my 4 short years through Capitol Hill internships, nonprofit, and volunteer work. And what I learned from these different involvements is that I had a strong passion for serving and working with members of my community, specifically families, young students, and those from underrepresented backgrounds. At the time, I wasn't really sure what my next steps would be, but I knew that whatever career path I chose, I ultimately wanted to make a social impact. I chose the La Follette School because I knew I would be able to learn and develop the skills that I needed to ask the hard questions, follow the evidence to the answers, and make a real and lasting impact in our community. My motivation to pursue a career in public service is also largely inspired by my grandma Soco. Socorro Teniente was a patient, compassionate, and powerful woman who dedicated her life to helping as many people as she could. My grandmother grew up poor in Mexico and worked as a migrant farm worker with my grandfather before moving to Wisconsin in pursuit of their version of the American dream. In paving her own path and raising 5 children, my grandma also helped other newly immigrated Latino families gain access to the knowledge and the resources that they needed in order to navigate a new country. In addition to her work in the community, my grandma Soco also really loved gardening and spending time outdoors. When I was little, I remember helping her tend her garden, and together we'd pull out pesky weeds, we'd water her flowers, and sometimes we'd even sing to the plants to encourage their growth. She treated each flower, each plant in her garden with the same kind of love and care that she showed to all the people that she knew. My grandma also delighted in attracting butterflies and hummingbirds to her garden. Whenever a bird visited the garden, she'd say, "Ay, mira ese pajarito." And together we would marvel at the bold and brightly colored, curious little creature. The last thing that I'll mention about my grandmother today is that she never took any of life's blessings for granted. She had this never-ending capacity to appreciate again and again, even something as mundane as a tiny flying visitor to her garden. And by being grateful, she maintained a fresh sense of wonder towards the universe. My experience gardening with my grandma taught me the importance of nurturing my own creativity and being curious about the world around me. Unfortunately, we lost my grandma to cancer almost 5 years ago, and I miss her so much. But I also feel her strong presence, and I know that she's with us today. I invite all of you to join me in celebrating how far we've come together as a cohort. When I look back to the fall of 2021, when our grad school journey began, we all came to campus still wearing face masks, and I didn't know what the bottom halves of most of your faces looked like. It was a strange way to start our school year, that is for sure, but we did not let the pandemic hinder our ability to form friendships. When I came to Follette, I was so scared to take stats and econ in the same first semester. And beyond that, I was really worried that no one would understand me or where I come from. Public policy is such a white, male-dominated field of study, and I didn't want to feel excluded. But sure enough, with constant encouragement from Mo, group study sessions, and team projects, I was able to muster the courage that I desperately needed to put myself out there and truly bond with the people in my classes. And I am so happy to say that 2 years later, I found my people. The people who really see me and can appreciate me for my true self. These are friends that I've grown to trust as people who will stand up for what they believe in, and as leaders who will stand up for other people. There are so many lessons that I've learned during my time at Follette that I could share with you all. But today, I really want to just focus on one. And this lesson is to simply never stop being curious. As public policy students, all of us want to be change agents. But without a desire to know more about the world, we will never want to change it. Or we will never know how to begin this work. But we can practice curiosity by asking questions in hopes of finding the answers. And in doing so, we can also build empathy, gain knowledge about others and other ways of being. But most importantly, we build community and we build solidarity with one another. And by valuing curiosity, we also explore possibilities for more creative solutions, develop trusting relationships, and create more effective, more democratic institutions that can deliver better services and programs to serve the people in our communities. So never stop being curious about the world around you and your ability to affect positive and transformative change. From gardening with my grandma, planting seeds and watching them grow, I felt a sense of purpose and responsibility, but also curiosity about the world and my ability to raise something beautiful. I encourage all of you to take on this perspective in your future work and professional roles moving forward. As we graduate today, I know that many of you will become program analysts and researchers, managers and directors. Please be inspired to use your intellectual curiosity to seek out new information, take on new experiences, and explore different possibilities. Learn more about other people and what you can do to be a better ally and a better advocate. When you are developing policy, be sure to consider who the stakeholders are and whose voices may or may not be represented at the table. Please be cognizant of administrative burdens that perpetuate social inequalities. Understand that there are unintended outcomes of public policies, and know that we all have the responsibility to intervene and reduce harm. And as you move up in your career, please do not forget to lift as you climb. There is enough opportunity and enough need for what we each have to offer individually. So be intentional about expanding opportunities for other people. Be generous with your time and with your actions. Finally, be grateful. Show gratitude for everyone in your life and for every opportunity that you come across. I will lead by example because I know that I would not be here where I am today without the abundance of love and support from all of my family and my friends. I know that it's taken an absolute village to raise me, so thank you all up there. Thank you for being here. My mom had me at a young age, and so I spent a lot of my childhood growing up with tias and tios, grandma and grandpa, lots of cousins and my siblings. And I treasure each relationship that I have with every one of you. I especially want to thank Jose, my amazing fiance, el amor de mi vida. I couldn't have done this without you. Thank you for loving me and growing with me. I know that sometimes I don't make it easy for you. Most of all, though, I do want to say thank you to my mom. Mom, you are the most fierce, passionate, hardworking person that I know. Thanks for always being my #1 role model and for being our family's rock. This is all for you, and as much as I know that you're proud of me, today is about you too. This is your time too. So before I start crying, I also want to uplift the very, very important work that Follette is doing to promote a more inclusive learning environment for everyone at our school, students, staff, and faculty all included. Over the past couple of years, I have been fortunate to help lead collaborative diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI efforts, to help develop goals and recommendations for our school to implement. And together, we have identified ways to weave DEI into the practices, the policies, the curriculum, and the culture at Follette. I can't emphasize enough how grateful I am to have been a part of this work, and what I'm sure is just the beginning of this very, very important work going forward. I also want to express my gratitude for all of the amazing people at Follette that have deeply enriched my graduate school experience. I especially want to thank Jillian, Jacob, Elizabeth, Mia, Alex, Gabriel, Mackenzie, Ariana, Abby, Kaoli. I could go on and on. I could name you all. I am just so extremely thankful to each and every one of you, and I feel so lucky to have been in community with you all. And I know that all of us at Follette are so different and unique. I know that we all have different lived experiences and ways in which we see the world. But the one thing that unites us is that we're all passionate about building a better future and finding creative ways to make change. The last thing that I'll leave you with is a quote from one of my favorite authors, Junot Diaz. He says, "The absolute safety of your soul will depend on whether you can find the community or the courage to bear witness to what has happened to you." As we graduate and move through this world, I challenge each and every one of you to acknowledge complexities and ambiguities in life and engage in the essential care work that it takes to build relationships with one another and create change wherever you go. Thank you.
Liliana, that was wonderful, and we're grateful for you. I'm pleased to present Professor Mark Copelovitch, who was chosen by the graduating class to serve as their faculty speaker. Mark Copelovitch is professor of political science and public affairs. He's been on the faculty at UW-Madison since 2006. Copelovitch studies and teaches international political economy and international relations, with a focus on the political economy of international finance, international organizations, and the politics of economic shocks and financial crises. He also studies the European Union, and he's been the director of UW's Center for European Studies since 2021. From 2022 to 2025, Copelovitch holds the European Commission's Jean Monnet Chair in the EU and the global economy. Copelovitch received his BA from Yale University and his PhD from Harvard. He's the author of 2 books, The International Monetary Fund of the Global Economy, Banks, Bonds, and Bailouts, from Cambridge University Press in 2010, and Banks on the Brink, Global Capital, Securities Markets, and the Political Roots of Financial Crises, again from Cambridge in 2020. He currently teaches courses in international governance and global financial government for our MIPA program. Mark, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Susan, for the kind introduction. Thank you for your inspiring remarks, Liliana. You're an incredibly tough act to follow. I think I speak for all of us when I say we're extremely excited to see what you're going to do in the years ahead, so congratulations. Thank you, Representative Hung, for joining us. I have to say, as a fellow Forward Madison FC soccer fan, I'm a little disappointed we didn't get treated to your great national anthem. You should all come to Breeze Stevens and see that at some point, but it's an honor to have you here with us to celebrate our graduates. I also want to add my welcome and congratulations to all of the family and friends here in the gallery today. It's a privilege and honor to teach your students, and I hope you're as proud of them as we are. Members of the La Follette class, school class of 2023, congratulations on reaching this day. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you on behalf of the La Follette faculty. I'm deeply honored. I'm incredibly proud of all of you for the hard work and the perseverance that you've put in to get here. This is my favorite day. I've told you some of this. This is my favorite day of the entire academic year and my favorite room that we gather during the entire year. So I want you to take a moment and just look around for a second. How many other students get to celebrate commencement in an actual room where it happens in government, let alone the main legislative chamber of the most beautiful Capitol building in the entire country? There's really no more appropriate way to mark the completion of your time here at UW and La Follette as students of public policy and public affairs than to receive your degrees in this sacred space. And make no mistake, this is absolutely a sacred space. Democracy, representative government, popular sovereignty, public service, public policy, the rule of law. These are sacred things in our country and in our society. And even though this building and this chamber also embody other far less sacred things, all of the messier and less admirable aspects of American politics, it's important to take a few moments and recognize that we sit here today in a sacred space, and that the topics we study and the tasks that we do every single day in a School of Public Affairs are deeply rooted in these sacred things. It's easy to lose sight of this bigger picture amidst the daily grind of each semester. As students, you spend 2 years working very, very, very hard every day on the concrete and often mundane tasks of graduate school. Problem sets, readings, papers, cost-benefit analyses, capstone projects, and more. And you've struggled with all kinds of other personal and professional challenges during a global pandemic and economic crisis. And as faculty, we too are often overwhelmed by the daily grind of teaching, research, outreach, and service, and we also tend to lose sight of the bigger picture. That's all normal and expected, and there are, of course, crucially important, very practical aspects to higher education and professional school. Indeed, doing the hard daily work and developing the skills and knowledge to be professionals in public policy is the essence of what we do every day here at the La Follette School. But that really highlights why a day like today is so very important. A day to stop and take stock of your accomplishments, but also to think about the bigger picture, those sacred things about our country and our politics and where we fit into it. Last year, my friend and colleague Greg Nemeth was the faculty speaker here, and Greg gave an excellent speech, which is also hard to follow, about his crucial work as a lead author for the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. He described the messy and, of course, depressing politics of global governance, and he asked, does policy analysis matter? In a world of misinformation, power politics, and increasingly extreme domestic politics, Greg charged last year's graduates to be optimistic and to remain firm in the belief that what we do as scholars and policy analysts absolutely matters. He said, and I quote, "We teach because it matters, we research because it matters, we do outreach because policy analysis matters. It doesn't always work out, but it can. Policy analysis is worth doing because it might matter, and the chance that it matters is enough to make it worth doing. Doing policy analysis requires optimism." And Greg ended with a charge that we have a moral responsibility to be optimistic. Now, it's easy to be pessimistic. Those of you that have taken my classes know that I am not by nature an optimist. How could I be? I'm a political scientist who studies financial crises, international cooperation, and the politics of economic policy. It's pretty much impossible to study these things and be an optimist. I mean, look around at the global economy and national and international politics over the last 15 years or more. Indeed, my job, I often joke, is to explain why good policies or optimal policies that other fields often work so hard to identify are never adopted, because the actors involved in the policy-making process, voters, interest groups, parties, bureaucrats, elected officials, have incredibly strong political incentives not to adopt good policies. And indeed, those of you who are in my international governance course can attest that we literally spent an entire semester studying the depressing politics of every major global issue and every major international organization. You rolled your eyes every time I said that there are trade-offs in everything, and that the choices over them are driven almost entirely by often ugly and messy politics. I'm sorry, but I was just the messenger. The other reason to be pessimistic is that we live in extremely challenging political times. To an almost unprecedented degree, the once broad political consensus in our country that the sacred things I mentioned, democracy, representative government, popular sovereignty, public service, public policy, the rule of law, are actually sacred and that they remain essential to our politics and our society, has unfortunately fractured. This fractured consensus has reminded us that, to quote the namesake of our school, Fightin' Bob Follette, one of the greatest public servants in the history of this country, democracy is a life and involves continual struggle. We have, over the last several years, been relearning this crucial lesson and recognizing the need to fight to preserve things that many of us once took for granted. This fight is about many things: equality, integrity, truth, justice, and more. But at its heart, it's a fight about information. We know from a very large body of research in political science and other fields that authoritarian parties and regimes have long used misinformation, censorship, even outright and obvious public lying to undermine democracy, the rule of law, and societal institutions. In the current era of unprecedented volumes of information, as well as the unprecedented speed with which it now moves around the world, fights over information, the amount of it, the accuracy of it, the shared belief in its accuracy, who provides it, these have become the front line in the fight to protect democracy. And this is where you, as new graduates of a public policy school, about to embark on what I hope are very long and very distinguished careers in public policy making, this is where you come in. And this is where I want to echo Greg's message from last year about our moral responsibility to be optimistic. You, despite all the reasons to be pessimistic about policy, politics, and democracy, are why I remain an inveterate optimist about the future. Over the last 2 years in the MPA and MIPA programs, you've been trained above all in how to handle information, how to gather it, how to produce it, how to analyze it. Yes, I promise all that work in Stata and in statistics that Ross and others taught you is worth it. How to synthesize it, how to present it, and how to do these things with information to develop good policy across a host of domestic and international policy issues. Indeed, whether your career will lead you to focus on health policy, social policy, trade policy, climate policy, international developments, global security, human rights, counterterrorism, poverty, or other issues, the main thing you'll do for the next many decades is deal with information. In democracy, good institutions, and good policy, they depend on this information. In a world flooded with misinformation and political messaging designed to deny or obscure the truth, accurate information and people armed with the skills to wield it for the public good, quite literally, people like you, are the lifeblood of these sacred things. We need people and organizations dedicated to gathering, analyzing, and communicating information, and developing evidence-based analysis to identify sensible policy solutions to our most serious societal problems. Now, as Greg told you last year, and you already know, the data and evidence and good policy analysis don't always win out over the politics. Quite often, alas, the opposite happens. We know that nationally, we know that locally, we know that here in Wisconsin at the state level, but sometimes they do. And even when they don't, the existence and the availability of the information and the policy analysis are essential. A democratic society and democratic institutions simply can't survive without them. And authoritarianism can only thrive when we allow information to be manipulated, suppressed, ignored, and distorted. That's why we need people like you now more than ever working in the policy world. We need you domestically, working on the toughest and most controversial policy issues at the local, state, and national levels. And we perhaps even more so, we need you internationally, working on the toughest and most intractable issues in global governance. Indeed, again, as those of you who suffered through international governance with me know, the barriers to good policy are even more pronounced at the international level, where issues of national sovereignty, global power politics, and even more serious collective action problems among 200 countries combine to make effective policy making even harder. Even more so than domestically, incomplete and asymmetric information are the fundamental barriers to international cooperation. That's why more than anything else, what international organizations like the UN, the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, the European Union, and all the others exist to gather, share, and analyze information that helps countries cooperate in pursuit of solutions to the world's most serious policy problems. We've seen this most recently in Ukraine, where accurate information about the military situation on the ground, about Ukrainian weapons needs, about Russia's ability to evade economic sanctions, and about the degree to which those sanctions have weakened Russia's military and economic capacity, that accurate information is crucial to ensuring that Ukraine is able to continue defending itself and defending its democracy. We've also seen how dedicated people across a range of policy-oriented institutions here in the US, in other democratic countries around the world, in international organizations like the UN and the EU and NATO, in non-governmental organizations like the International Rescue Committee and CARE, and in think tanks like the Institute for War, which is a DC think tank that gathers information, and if you followed the Ukraine war, you know, publishes incredibly detailed maps every day of the military situation on the ground across Ukraine. These organizations are making an enormous difference. The people working in these organizations are just like you. Many of them have public policy degrees. All of them are dedicated to using information, data, and evidence-based analysis to make the best policy possible. And they're using their training to help Ukraine defend that very sacred thing, democracy, that this room and this building symbolizes as well. So, La Follette School graduates of 2023, take today, enjoy the celebration in this sacred space as well as the celebration that's coming afterward. Mark this sacred time with your family and friends and colleagues. And then, starting tomorrow, go and use your skills, talent, and training to do the hard daily work upon which this sacred thing that we call democracy rests. Whether you do that here in Madison, in Washington, D.C., or somewhere far off in the important world of global governance, be optimistic. Be the people who take the Wisconsin idea out into the world and make it a better place. Let me close with a few words from a fightin' Bob himself, who came to speak at UW 119 years ago now, on June 5th, 1904, at what at that time was the University of Wisconsin's 50th Jubilee. And I think his words on that day are a fitting final charge to all of you as our newest class of Bobs, and a reminder to all of us here as faculty and staff at this great university of why we're here. It's not enough that the university shall zealously advance learning, or that it shall become a great storehouse of knowledge, into which is gathered the accumulating fruits of research and all of the world's best culture, or that it shall maintain the highest standards of scholarship and develop every latent talent. All these are vitally essential, but the state demands more than all of those. The state asks that you give it back men and women strong in honesty and integrity of character, in each of whom there is deeply planted the obligation of allegiance to the state. That obligation should meet them as they cross the threshold of this institution and go in and out with them day by day until it is a conviction as strong as life. That obligation cannot be discharged by the passive performance of the merely normal duties of citizenship. Upon every citizen rests the obligation to serve the state in civil life as the soldier serves the country in war. To this high duty, the children of the university are specially called. The state has prepared you for this work, and you are honor-bound to strike the blow or say the word which will make the state stronger, promote a better public policy, ensure a better government. Graduates of the class of 2023, congratulations. Go and make us and Fightin' Bob proud.
Thank you, Mark. I'm delighted to introduce our keynote graduation speaker, State Representative Francesca Hong. Born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin, Francesca Hong is a first-generation Korean-American mother, chef, and community organizer. In 2016, after the birth of their son, Francesca and her partner, Matt, opened Morris Ramen Restaurant in downtown Madison. Shortly after, she co-founded the Culinary Ladies Collective, the CLC, and currently serves as its board president. CLC is an organization which aims to empower women and non-binary food and beverage professionals through shared resources, networking, and fundraising for nonprofit organizations. In 2020, Francesca co-founded Cook It Forward Madison, an initiative that brings healthy meals directly to under-resourced communities while uplifting restaurants and their ecosystems. Francesca is a resident of the Tenley-Lathrop neighborhood and the Wisconsin State Representative for the 76th Assembly District. Representative Hong, thank you for being with us here today, and the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. Hello. Thank you, Susan, for that kind introduction. And Professor Copelovitch, you're one of my favorite Twitter accounts to follow, and I think we all now know why. And to all of you, thank you for sharing space with me. I have to say it feels kind of weird as a member of the minority party to be up here, but I'm grateful for it. It is truly an honor to be speaking. And to all of you, welcome to the Capitol. What each of you has accomplished is no small feat. And all of us here, the faculty, the parents, the caregivers, the family and friends and guests, we're absolutely stoked to celebrate you. It's an honor, and the dedication that you have shown in your pursuit of knowledge is so admirable. The journey of scholarship, it's not one that preludes the start of public service. Rather, I hope you all know that you have already become leaders and you are already change makers in your own right. Your public service actually started when you decided to explore the realms of public policy and the practice of government. It started actually when you chose hope. You chose to go into policymaking, which makes you, I think, inherently hopeful, and that is incredibly powerful. The La Follette School of Public Affairs stands as a beacon of excellence, fostering intellectual curiosity and nurturing the minds of individuals of diverse strengths, aspirations, and experiences. And as a state lawmaker, I've had the privilege of engaging and partnering with this school's tremendous faculty and students and graduates on important policy projects over the past couple of years. I've gotten a lot of help from you all. As you heard from my bio, my background is not in politics. My background was not in government. So I needed to reach out, and you were there. I know what this wonderful institution has provided, and it's provided you with knowledge and skills and perspectives necessary to tackle the complex and oftentimes absurd challenges facing our society today. And here in this Capitol, it's actually your Capitol, this building belongs to all of you. We need you. We live in a time of unprecedented challenges. I'm getting tired of saying that, but it's true. From global pandemics to climate crises, social inequalities, and rising authoritarianism, the problems we face are daunting, and they require a great deal of patience and endurance to solve. And because of this, the world of public affairs is as dynamic and as important as it has ever been. Specifically, as you know, with significant shifts in the field towards leveraging technology and data for decision-making and implementation. There's a growing recognition, sometimes an ambivalence, to the importance of evidence-based policymaking. And so there need now to be a renewed focus on addressing inequality and achieving social justice. The potential of your impact in your chosen career paths now is almost limitless. So I can imagine this may feel somewhat overwhelming as you sit here and contemplate the future or whatever you may be thinking. And I'm sure you've realized sometimes the intention alone can't bring us across the finish line or even move us forward. It was Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, a revered Vietnamese spiritual leader, poet, and peace activist, who once said, "Good intentions are not enough. You have to be artful." Yes, the world needs the formulas, the techniques that each of you have learned and have mastered, but more so, it needs your art, your creativity, your innovation. It needs the flexibility and ingenuity and sometimes a little magic of what it means to be a student of the Wisconsin idea, to tackle what's in front of us and to make more approachable and, more importantly, accessible the broad topics and complex issues that you will be tasked with solving. It's true, Thich Nhat Hanh wrote that quote about love and relationships, but I think it's applicable to the fields that you have decided to pursue. After all, what's the realm of public policy and governance, if not sometimes a dysfunctional relationship that can sometimes be fulfilling when both sides finally agree on something? And I remember sitting right there agreeing with a colleague about old fashions needing to be bourbon and sour. So the Zen master continues, "Mindful living is an art, and each of us has to train to be an artist. The truth is, you have all been trained as such. So now, you have to remember how and when to apply it to every step of your journey. Use your training to go beyond the constraints of the institutions you will encounter. Remember, administrative burdens, complex processes, gatekeeping, they're there for you to help break down. Use your training to build on the precedent of your field without being limited by it. And use your training to look at an issue from a philosophy of what should be and rather not what can be. Be imaginative. Know that possibilities are possible because of your potential." My father, Jin Cook, is a sociologist here at the university, and he's taught me a great deal, and I enjoy a lot of the feedback he gives me now as I serve in the state legislature, however unprompted. he's got a lot to say now. He reminds me constantly, sometimes, mostly actually a lot of the times, about the perils of late-stage capitalism, but he also prompts me about public policy, and that at its heart, at its core, is about human connection. It seeks to address the needs, the aspirations, and the well-being, the wholeness, the goodness of individuals and communities. It recognizes that every policy decision has to have a profound impact on people's lives and leave no person behind. It ultimately endeavors to foster connections between governments and its people, building a bridge of trust and accountability rather than just searching for common ground. In short, I think public affairs gazes upon the human condition and conspires to better understand it, to predict it, to solve what ails it. This is a considerable responsibility, and one that I hope you do not take lightly, one that I hope you reward yourself with, both in triumphs and in setbacks. But especially in the setbacks. I chose to work in restaurants and politics. I have a bit of an idea of setbacks. But I know that each setback serves as a stepping stone towards personal and professional development. It allows us to reassess our goals. It helps us to recalibrate our strategies and cultivate a mindset ultimately about adaptability, perseverance, and sustainability. In public policy, it's always important to acknowledge the inherent value in the journey and not just the destination. So make sure you keep celebrating your goodness each step of the way. In closing, I want to just share personally how incredibly grateful I am. Yes, this is a sacred space, but it's often an isolating one for those with different lived experiences, those who may not always had the trajectory to get here. And I am filled with immense hope and comfort knowing that there are people like you who are going to build partnerships with people like me so that we can make a difference together. I have confidence in each of you. You have demonstrated exceptional dedication and intellect during your time here. So as you go forth from this place, but don't go too far because Wisconsin needs you, know that you have the capacity to build trusting partnerships, not ones rooted in transaction, but ones rooted in care, and to do good. Be courageous in your pursuit of justice, compassionate in your interactions with others, and ethical in your decision-making. Remember that true leadership is not about personal gain or power. It is about empowering the people around you. It is about amplifying voices that have been systemically silenced and creating a more equitable and just society for all. Elitism can be dangerous. So I tell you now, the world awaits your continued passionate leadership and service. Congratulations, class of 2023.
Thank you, Representative. At graduation, we have the honor of announcing 3 student awards, which we're actually going to be announcing right now for the very first time. The Director's Achievement Award recognizes a student for her or his outstanding academic record. The major criterion for the award is grade point average, but the graduating student also must demonstrate evidence of being an outstanding public policy thinker and communicator. This year's winner was selected for being a major contributor to the Follette School's intellectual and student life as well, serving as the president of the Follette School's Student Association. I'm delighted to announce that this year's Director's Award winner is Amelia Wagner. Amelia. Amelia, if you can come forward, please. Very well deserved. Next, I have the pleasure of sharing the winner of this year's Penniman Prize. Clara Penniman was the founder and director of the La Follette School's predecessor, the Center for the Study of Public Policy and Administration. The La Follette School presents the Penniman Prize to a graduating student who has written the most outstanding paper while at the La Follette School. The La Follette School faculty nominate papers that demonstrate the school's writing and analytic skills, and this year's paper was nominated by our colleague, Professor Greg Nemeth. The winning paper is called Analyzing Employment-Focused Immigration Reform in the United States and was written by Lucas Knight. Lucas, can you come forward, please? It's actually an excellent paper. Next, I have the honor of sharing the winner of this year's Peore Prize. Emmanuel R. Peore was a research physicist who marshaled federal dollars for scientific research and helped IBM develop a new generation of digital computers. Nora Khan Peore was a New York economist and health policy expert. The Peore Prize recognizes the best paper in science and public policy and was set up as a philanthropic gift to the La Follette School by Emmanuel and Nora Peore. This year's paper was nominated by Professor David Weimer, and it's titled Strategies to Reduce Black Infant Mortality in Wisconsin, and it was written by Ethan Dickler. Ethan, please come forward. I will say that my colleague, Professor Manny Teodoro, also nominated Ethan for a Shakespearean-inspired sonnet that he wrote in his public policy class, which was, I mean, it almost took the cake. It almost took the cake. Ethan, congratulations. I'm delighted to turn the floor over to Mo O'Connor, who serves as the graduate program manager at the La Follette School of Public Affairs and who has done so much to support these students through their time at the La Follette School. Mo?
Take this moment to think of your people, those here with you today and those present in spirit, whose toil and history are part of your pride and whose dreams you represent through this major accomplishment. They gave you the gifts of strength, resilience, persistence, wholeheartedness, and your name. Please come forward when I say it. Adrian Arcoleo. Jacob Tariv Bolter. Brian Patrick Boland. Natalia Borowska. Ethan Colorado Dickler. Ben Scott Eidler. Megan Elizabeth Feely. Frederick Charles Flores. Austin Mitchell Fraley. Jillian Candace Giuliano. Ariana Lucille Hammersmith. Connor Haig Intress. Elizabeth Aurora Johnson. Spencer Edward Johnson. Amber Sarita Joshua. Samantha Ann Jervich. Lucas Knight. Samuel Anton Landowski. Stephanie Elizabeth Mertens. Benjamin David Mulkey. Mark Morales. Jennifer Morsfeld. Sarah Veronica Neshi. John Daniel O'Malley. Haley Madeline Padfield. Michaela Elizabeth Pesch. Abigail Peterson. Andrew F. Piotrowski. Allison Recht. Adam Robert Riley. Samuel Broughton Russell. Sam Schneider. Megan Elizabeth Shaw. Phelan Ann Simkis. Nicole Springer. Liliana Savan Teniente. Gabriel Stowe Terrell. Benjamin A. Vargas. Amelia Snow Birgitta Wagner. Willem Mark Weigel. Mitchell Craig Wenzel. Tyler Williams. And Christina Marie Zordani.
Before we close, I want to say a few special thank yous to our wonderful La Follette School student graduation coordinators, Amelia Lowe and Natalie Baraska. Congratulations, you guys. Really amazing job. They have planned a reception to honor the new graduates at the Monona Terrace in the Grand Terrace Room from 1 to 3 today. I also want to thank Lissa, our student association, our La Follette School staff who assisted in the event tonight, as well as our 3 speakers. Commencement is a time of new beginnings. On behalf of the La Follette School faculty, I'm delighted to be sending you forth with new skills, with new insights, and to do good in our world. So now, go forth and do. And remember that you will always have a home at the La Follette School of Public Affairs at UW-Madison. So I'd invite you to stand up, graduates. If you haven't already, flip from, right to left, because you are officially graduates. And if you want to throw your cap, now's the time. On 3, 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.